All right, so there's this massive legal storm that's been brewing in the US real estate world for years. And just when you think you have a handle on it, another huge domino falls. Today, we're digging into the latest multi-million-dollar tremor, one that signals a deep crack in the very foundation of how real estate agents get paid.
Just look at this number, $8.5 million. And nope, that's not the price tag on a Malibu mansion.
That's the price the real estate giant RE/MAX just forked over to escape a massive legal battle. And this payment isn't just some line item on a balance sheet. It's a huge signal of a much bigger shift that's happening across the entire industry.
Okay, so let's really get into it. On March 19th, RE/MAX announced it had reached a settlement in a commissions lawsuit that's been dragging on for 5 years, known as the Batton case. This deal basically gets the whole RE/MAX operation, the company, its franchisees, and all its agents out of the legal hot seat.
And here's the kicker. What makes the Batton case so different? This one was brought by home buyers, not sellers. Their whole argument? That the big brokerages and the National Association of Realtors, NAR, were all in on a conspiracy to keep agent commissions artificially high. And believe me, that distinction is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, that one little detail, it changes everything. I mean, while all the headlines have been focused on lawsuits from angry home sellers, this case opens up a whole new legal battlefield, coming from the complete other side of the closing table.
Here's an easy way to think about it. You've got the blockbuster Sitzer/Burnett case, which made enormous waves last year. That was all about home sellers who felt like they were getting a raw deal. But the Batton case, that's a totally separate attack, this time from the home buyers. We're talking different plaintiffs, a different focus, and a completely different legal threat.
So here's the bottom line. Even though RE/MAX had already agreed to pay a whopping $55 million to settle that Sitzer/Burnett seller lawsuit, that settlement gave them zero protection here. None. They were still completely exposed, which is exactly why they had to open up the checkbook all over again.
So this brings us to a kind of legal scorecard for the Batton case itself. I get it. With so many players and lawsuits flying around, it can be tough to keep track. So let's just break it down. Who's in, who's out, and who is still in the fight?
So Keller Williams actually jumped first on this one. They were the first major brokerage to settle in the Batton case, agreeing to pay $20 million back in February. RE/MAX, by waiting it out a bit, seems to have snagged a much better deal at just $8.5 million. It just goes to show you the high-stakes game of legal chicken these companies are all playing.
Now, of course, RE/MAX is trotting out the standard legal language here. In their official filings, they're making it very clear this settlement is not an admission of guilt. They're framing this purely as a business decision to cut their losses and move on, not as a surrender on the facts of the case.
Okay, so with Keller Williams and RE/MAX both out of the picture now, where does that leave the other defendants? Well, Anywhere Real Estate is trying to navigate a more complicated exit, and that leaves one giant player still standing in the ring, the National Association of Realtors.
And you have to remember, these cases don't happen in a vacuum, right? Every single settlement creates this domino effect. It influences the strategies of all the remaining defendants, and really it paints a bigger picture of an entire industry under incredible pressure to change.
Just take a look at Anywhere Real Estate, for example. They tried this really clever, some might say sneaky, legal maneuver. They tried to use a settlement from a different lawsuit to get themselves out of this one. The plaintiffs, well, they cried foul, basically calling it a cheap trick. But for now, a judge has actually allowed it. It is a high-stakes chess match with millions and millions of dollars on the line.
So, with the big brokerage houses finding their escape hatches one by one, what happens now? Well, all eyes are turning to the one major defendant left standing in the Batton case.
But why? Why did RE/MAX decide to pay up now? Well, according to their spokesperson, it was a pretty simple business decision. They wanted to create certainty and just end the distraction. I mean, it basically got to a point where the ongoing cost of fighting the lawsuit was going to be more expensive than the settlement itself.
And really, this is what it all boils down to. With RE/MAX and Keller Williams out, the main target for the home buyer plaintiffs in this Batton case is now the incredibly powerful industry group, the National Association of Realtors.
And NAR? Oh, they are making it crystal clear they are not backing down. While they say they respect RE/MAX's choice, their official line is that they will continue to defend their rules. In other words, they're digging in for a fight, positioning themselves as the last line of defense for the traditional commission system.
So let's just do a quick recap here. The big brokerages are shelling out millions to escape this new wave of lawsuits from home buyers. It's a whole separate fight from the seller suits we've heard so much about. and it's leaving the powerful NAR standing pretty much alone to defend the old system.
All of this, it all leads to the one huge question that's hanging over the entire industry. As these multi-million-dollar settlements keep piling up, and each one is another crack in the foundation of the old system, you just have to ask, are we literally watching the end of traditional real estate commissions as we know them?